Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kristi Karelson. I'm the ambassador of Estonia to Hungary. And I would like to welcome all of you at today's seminar about e-residency. We are glad to note such a great interest towards this event that goes beyond our expectations. Estonia was the first country to introduce e-residency in 2014. And this did not happen just from some empty place, though, but was rather just the next step in the build-up of a digital society that started already in the mid-1990s. Our then young and very ambitious new generation government established a new generation governance, e-governance, that has gained a lot of attention in the world since then. I can proudly say that Estonia has been a true pioneer in the sphere of digital development up until today. No need to mention that the current pandemic that has put so many limits to the movement of people hugely increased interest towards and use of online tools and solutions, especially for the businesses. We Estonians were quite confident in this situation, as so many things in our lives had been done online anyway. The e-residency program has proved to be very popular since its launch. Today, there are around 77,000 Estonian e-residents all over the world. We count that they have created some 57 million euros direct revenue for the Republic of Estonia. And the program has also gained some popularity in Hungary already. There are around 820 people who have become e-residents so far from Hungary. And we hope, of course, that today's seminar will be useful and encourage at least some of you to think also about the opportunities the program could open for you. For your appetite, I just mentioned that services like registering a company in 18 minutes or signing documents and declarations online and hassle-free are available for everybody using digital services in Estonia. Before going to the presentations, I would just like to present also my colleague, Kenneth Kopamees, the consul in the embassy, whom you would most likely be in direct contact with while getting your residency card in the embassy or having any questions about it. So, Kenneth, could you just introduce yourself, please?
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. Hello, everyone. My name is Kenneth Kopamees. I am the consul here at the Estonian embassy. And as our ambassador said, I will be the one from whom you will actually get the card from when you decide to apply for e-residency. I would like to wish you all a very pleasant seminar. I hope it's very useful for you. And also, when you have any concrete questions about the program, you are always welcome to contact our embassy as well. So we are very glad to help you. I will also write the email address of our embassy in the chat. So once again, have a nice seminar.
Okay, thank you, Kenneth. So without further ado, I would then go to the presentations. And today we will have 3 speakers. First, Mr. Jan Heinsoo from the e-residency team will introduce you to the program, its background, context, and content, but also an insight to the broader e-governance in Estonia. Then after that, we will have Mr. Tõnis Jõgeva from a consultancy company, One Office, and finally, Mr. Henrik Lashu, who is an e-resident himself, will speak about his experience. But just about the modalities for today, as there are so many participants, unfortunately, we are not able to let all of you speak and pose your questions orally. So if you could just please send all your comments and questions in this section of Q&A, which is seen here on your screens. And then in the end, after all the presentations, we will take your questions and comments, and all the speakers will discuss and answer them. So Jan, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador, for this great introduction. So my name is Jan Heinso. I am the head of new markets in the e-residency team. So today I will make a short presentation about Estonia, about the Estonian business environment, about e-Estonia, which lies behind the e-residency, and of course about e-residency. Without further ado, I will share my screen and let's go into the presentation mode. Now, can someone give me a thumbs up if the presentation is visible? Great, thank you so much. All right, so e-residency. E-residency gives you an opportunity to do business without borders. So a couple of words about Estonia. So Estonia is a Nordic country and it has a Scandinavian business culture. So of course we are also a part of the Central and Eastern European culture and environment, and we are a Baltic country. But as you can see on the map, actually we are part of Scandinavia, and many people speak Scandinavian languages in Estonia, especially the Finnish language and the Swedish language. So if any of you are contemplating expanding your business to Scandinavia, then Estonia could be a great gateway for that. So it is also a world-class business environment. I will tell you a little bit about the business environment of Estonia soon. We also pride ourselves in being a home of global startups, such as all of you know Skype, but I will show you a couple of more unicorns in a couple of minutes. And of course, the first and most advanced digital society in the world is e-Estonia. So, world-class business environment, what do I mean? The International Tax Competitiveness Index has put Estonia #1 for the 6th year in a row. So I will tell you more about why that was. And the European Commission has ranked the Estonian digital public services in terms of e-government also #1 in the EU. So in terms of the digital economy and society index, we are still not quite #1, but in terms of the e-government, #1 in the EU. So world-class business environment, it means it takes just 20 minutes to establish a company. So of course, everyone takes a little bit different time to establish a company. For example, you might go and start to establish a company and then start to think of a name for your company. That usually takes the most time. But technically it just takes 15-20 minutes to establish a company fully online. So it means that 24/7 from anywhere you are, you can establish and manage your business fully online. There is 0% corporate income tax on any reinvested or retained profits. I will tell you a little bit about the taxes later. And yes, as we discussed, there is easy access to EU and Scandinavian markets, especially Scandinavian markets. And no bureaucracy. So when you become an e-resident and start the company in Estonia, it's the end of bureaucracy. Everything will be done basically online. So you can do everything yourself online, but there are also service providers like One Office who will help you in your journey to do everything online. So Tõnis Jõgeva will tell a little bit more about that, and then Hendrik Lassu will tell about his own experience, his own journey as an e-resident entrepreneur. These are the Estonian unicorns. So everybody knows Skype. And if I understand correctly, Bolt is also available in Budapest. So very many of you are using Bolt to ride to work, for example. Many of you know TransferWise. So it is one of the most prominent fintech companies right now in the world. There is Playtech, which is doing the online gaming platforms, different ones, software for that. It is actually an Estonian-Israeli company. And the fresh unicorn, the fifth unicorn, is Pipedrive. So a unicorn, of course, as most of you know, in startup language, it means that the company which has been a startup company which has been valued over $1 billion US. So these are the Estonian unicorn startups. So yeah, Pipedrive is a CRM. Actually, we use it, and it's really easy to use, and a great product also. So these were the Estonian startups, and of course, everything started from Skype. So I think that if there was no Skype, then our startup ecosystem wouldn't be as developed as it is right now, because when the guys invented Skype, then everybody understood that everything is possible, that the sky is the limit, and everybody started to make these unique, one-of-a-kind startups that have reached unicorn status. So taxes. It is a really simple and favorable tax system. First of all, the corporate income tax on reinvested or retained profits. You don't have to reinvest. You can just keep the profits in your company. The corporate income tax then is 0%. But if you take your dividends or distribute your profits in any other way, then for private persons, it is 20%. And for companies, it could be 14% if the company distributes its profits regularly in the same amount. For companies, meaning that if it is a subsidiary of another company. Sales, 20% VAT. If sales exceed 40,000 euros per year, then you have to start paying VAT. It's 20%. And payroll taxes, these are not very low, I would say. These are not the most beneficial part of the tax system. The corporate income tax system is the most beneficial part. The payroll taxes are 33% social security tax, includes all the pensions and everything else, and 20% personal income tax. But of course, here you must understand that if you are a company owner, then the Estonian system is that before taking dividends, you don't pay income tax. It is 0. Then you pay 20%, for example, on distributed profits. And then after that, again, there is no personal income tax. So the only tax is 20% in these cases. So it's a really business-friendly and easily administrable tax system, actually. And all the taxes, of course, can be declared via e-tax and e-customs system. And whereas we have a balanced state budget, then there is also no pressure right now to raise the taxes. So a couple of words about e-Estonia. So what is this e-Estonia? It means that 98% of the companies are established online. There could be different reasons why people want to go to the notary. And these are the 2 out of 100 that still go to the notary. And 99% of the banking is done online. Of course, I think that in Hungary you do the same. You also have online banks which are really far developed. 95% of tax declarations are filed online. I think that even more right now, maybe already 96, 97%, everybody actually does their taxes online. And of course, if you ask your service provider to do the taxes for you, then they still use the same online system that you can actually use yourself also. And since 2014, e-residency, so Estonian electronic services are now available for everyone in the world. So a couple of principles. Once only principle means that you give your information to one database or one institution. And then the other institutions that have the right to know this information can ask this one that you gave your information to through the X road. The citizens own their data. So it clearly means that if there is anything that you're not happy about, there is a ledger that you can check who checked my information. And then if there is a breach, then it is a very serious thing. But up to now, there have been billions of transactions, billions of information sharing activities between the databases, but basically no breaches, except a couple of exceptions. Estonians trust e-solutions. So basically, Estonians have trusted e-solutions already before there were any e-solutions. So we started to trust our government first, and then the e-solutions followed. 99% of the services are online. So first they are digital, and then if necessary, there will be services physically. So yes, you can go to the physical tax administration, but everybody does that online, as well as all the other services in their daily lives. So just this is our office. This is our former managing director Ott Vatter together with President Kersti Kaljulaid. So probably, as you know, the president and prime minister of Estonia are now both women. So we are very happy about the new government of Estonia, actually. On the right, actually, you can see our chief happiness officer. This is a dog called Lucy. Yeah, so this is our office. But yeah, the first digital society, what does that mean? It means that the digital society is basically redefining all the governance, as Kristi Karlsson already mentioned, simplifying life and business. So basically, the only thing that we still cannot do online is marriage and divorce. So technically, it's easy, but physically, we're just not ready yet. But actually, there is e-notary, and in some cases, it is even possible to enter into civil union online, and it is basically the same thing. So basically everything can be done online now. But where did it all start? Actually, it started in the 1990s. I don't want to give you any history lesson, but it started in the 1990s with online banking. Then in the year 2000, e-governance. Then also in the year 2000, e-tax board and population registry followed suit. And when you started to think about it, that we still have some bureaucracy, that online banking is there, population registry is online, e-tax board. What if we combine these three? Already quite a lot of bureaucracy is eliminated when you don't have to take a piece of paper from the population registry, then go to the bank, take a piece of paper from the bank, and go with these two pieces of paper to the e-tax board, to the tax board, not the e-tax board. But then when these three are starting to talk to each other, then a lot of our daily lives is already made much more easy. So the X-Road was invented in order for all of these databases to start communicating to each other. Then the digital ID, 20 years ago. So it's 2021 and we have had the digital ID for 20 years. So the same thing as you will have as an e-resident, only ours also has a picture on it. So we can show it physically. And it's also a travel document, but yours will not have a picture on it. Yours will be only for digital use. Then after that, in a couple of years already, internet voting, something that most countries in the world are still not ready for, 16 years ago. So everybody votes online. And it's, of course, it's more safe than the traditional way. Public safety. So, for example, the police. The police doesn't stop your car, for example. If you drive around on the streets, the police just scans all the license plates. And if there is anything wrong with the car, then they will stop you. But unless there is, you are lacking your insurance or your driver's license has been taken away from you, then there's no reason to stop you. And then, of course, after some attempted breach, then we made it much more secure through blockchain principles. In 2008, we have e-health. For example, you call your doctor and you tell what's wrong with you, and there's no need basically usually to go to the doctor. She can just prescribe your medicine, and in 1 second you can go to the pharmacy and take your medicine. So the e-health also makes life much more easy for you if you get sick. And of course, the most important thing in 2009, online company registration. So this is something that we have been able to do for 12 years. And all of the e-residents, all of the foreigners in Estonia accessing the Estonian business environment from a distance. You don't have to come to Estonia. Have been able to do that for 6 years, since 2014. And as Kristi already said, that Estonia is the first country to introduce e-residency. And now many countries are doing a copy-paste, attempting to do that. But of course, the Estonian e-residency, behind the Estonian e-residency, there are thousands of e-services. And more precisely, there are over 3,000 digital services. So basically, you can imagine it's more or less everything. So the e-residency card is mainly used for authentication and signature in order to basically do everything online with your company. So there are lots of smiling faces on this slide. So I wonder why they are smiling and what do they have in common. So in the corners there on the bottom right, on the top right, for example, you can see the Pope. On the top left, it's Angela Merkel from Germany, as you know. It's on the bottom left, it's Bill from the US, Shinzo Abe from Japan. And on the top, you can see Xenia from Moscow, Emre's team from Turkey, Ian from the US, and so on. So what do all of these people have in common? You guessed it. All of these people have the e-residency status and card. So out of the speakers today, sadly, I have to mention that only Henrik Lasho has e-residency card. And there is a good reason, because we cannot be e-residents. We already have the ID card with a picture on it. So e-residents can be only the foreigners accessing the Estonian business environment. So we can't be, but Henrik can, and Henrik will tell more about it. So what is it? What is e-residency? E-residency is a government-issued digital identity, which provides non-residents an Estonian digital ID card. So with e-residency, you can establish a location-independent EU company, access all of the Estonian e-services for business, and run your business fully remotely from wherever you are. So right now, everybody has to stay home. So you run your business from home, wherever you are, in Budapest or in any other country in the world. You can choose, and you can run your company wherever you are. You can be on vacation and still run your Estonian company. So basically, you don't have to come to Estonia to do that. So who is it for? Basically, it's for any entrepreneur, and especially for location independent and highly mobile entrepreneurs. It is also for startup founders aiming to go global, for example. I'm sure many of you are startup founders aiming to go global. It is also for freelance professionals. It is for entrepreneurs going for new markets. So for example, we already discussed that if you're an entrepreneur that wants to go to Scandinavian markets, then it is especially a good thing to establish an Estonian company, perhaps remotely establish even an office, hire someone that speaks Scandinavian languages, Finnish and Swedish, and start expanding to the Scandinavian markets already much more efficiently. So this is one way to use e-residency, but there are multiple ways. And of course, remote top management of Estonian subsidiary. So if a large corporation, for example, establishes a subsidiary in Estonia, then the top layer can stay where they are. They can start hiring from the middle management and run the top management of the company from wherever they are. So what is the reason? E-residency actually makes Estonia the easiest place to start and manage a global business fully online. So it is a trusted, business-friendly jurisdiction. So we already discussed how Estonia is business-friendly, what makes it business-friendly. And you can access a full range of Estonian e-services. So the Estonian e-services have been around for the longest time, basically out of all of the e-services in the world. Conduct banking, declare taxes, you can make a legally binding digital signature. And of course, you can join a community of people who are like-minded. So for example, the e-resident community can make your life much easier when you're expanding your business to any country in the world. For example, you want to expand to Brazil. Just find an e-resident of Estonia in Brazil. There are lots of them. you can find e-residents of Estonia in any country in the world. So, and the e-residents tend to be really friendly between each other because they're all Estonian e-residents, and that's how much they have in common. So they can exchange experiences between each other, exchange contacts, and help each other. So this community is really vibrant. Actually, you will be surprised how easy it is to access each other as e-residents. So how many e-residents do we have? In total, we have 77,000 e-residents already from virtually all of the countries in the world who have established 15,500 companies. And as Kristi already mentioned, more than 800 Estonian e-residents from Hungary have established 185 Estonian companies. So just a couple of testimonials. So Arzu is a good friend of mine from Turkey. And she has mentioned that people in Estonia can benefit from the most advanced digital society in the world. And now people outside of Estonia can also take advantage of the world's first transnational digital identity, which is e-residency. And Andriy, who is also a good friend from Ukraine, founder of corporate news agency. Andriy is a very experienced e-resident, actually. So if you want a lot of experience, then find Andriy. Andriy has said that true business class is when you don't need to travel at all to do business worldwide. So that's a good thought. So if you want, you can travel. If you want to, you can be anywhere in the world. But if you want, you can just stay home where you are and do business worldwide through e-residency. So just a couple of more things that I wanted to show. So there is Marketplace, a thing called Marketplace on our website. So there you can choose from a variety of service providers, verified service providers that offer all of the turnkey solutions for business administration. One of them is One Office. So I really recommend to contact with Tõnis from One Office, providing virtual office, contact person, legal address, banking. So you can find banking institutions, also fintech institutions there, and of course, consulting. So use it. It is really easy to use, and it gives you a comparison table, also an interactive marketplace. Resources where you can find information. So there is a specifically designed business guide for e-residents on our website. So most of the answers are there. It's really easy also to use. The knowledge base is easy to use. You can use the search engine. There is the blog where you can read about the tips and hacks. And of course, you can ask us. You can write to us on eresident@gov.ee. You can also ask questions, of course, from the embassy, from Kenneth especially, and from Kristi, Madam Ambassador. And what I would recommend you to do also next, on the 9th of February and on the 23rd of February, there will be the next webinars. You can find them on the events calendar on our website. So the first webinar will tell you how to apply for e-residency and everything you need to know before applying. And the second webinar already will tell you in detail how to start your company. All you need to know about starting your company in Estonia with e-residency. So make sure you join also the next webinars. So right now from me, this is it. But we will go on with the presentations with Tõnis Jõgeva from One Office. And after all of our presentations, stay with us. The Q&A session will be the most important part of the webinar. But now, Tõnis.
Hello, everyone. It's Tõnis Jõgeva from One Office. I'm the head of sales here, and I will do my own presentation for you. But Jan, terrific start. A lot of good points and a lot of good things to consider. I like your knowledge base. So everybody who are really interested, go into the knowledge base and see what's in there. You can get most of the useful information already there. So maybe that's a good way to start my presentation. I'll share my screen then. Again, give me thumbs up if it's good to see. Great. I'll make it large. I hope everyone in Hungary have eaten their lunch now and you can sit back and just relax. I'll go into the more into the tax and legal aspects of creating and running your company. But some of the points that Jan already went over, I will also just shortly stop on that. But maybe first a little introduction to One Office. So Jan mentioned that we have this Nordic culture and business culture, and that's correct. And if you're really interested in Estonia specifically and you want to expand to other countries, for example, Sweden or Finland, or maybe Baltic countries, then actually Estonia has all of those covered. So we have an entity there as well. We can give you registrations there, VAT numbers, accounting. So we have over 40 specialists for that. So definitely, if you're looking to expand, then we can help you further, not only in Estonia. Also about 4,000 companies are already our clients, and they are truly international clients, so from 70 different countries. And most of our clients are foreigners. We do have Estonian clients as well, but since it's so easy to do everything in Estonian, then our locals, they usually do everything themselves. And then Jan also gave this 3,000 online services, e-services that we have. It's really made easy. And once you have this e-residency card, you can get access to those services yourself as well. So what e-residency is, already went through this. I'll go to the next slide. But maybe I'll just stop on this slide, what e-residency is not. So it is not a travel or identity document. That's why you don't have a picture on yours. We have our own ID card in Estonia, which is quite similar to the one you will have, but yeah, you cannot use it to travel. Also, it will not give you a visa here in Estonia, but there are ways to get a startup visa or a residence permit here in Estonia. So in Q&A, you can ask those questions, or you can ask service providers how that process works, but the residency itself does not grant you that access. And also, what's really important, it's not tax residency of Estonia, it's not a tool to avoid taxes. My presentation going forward will focus on taxes a lot. I'll try to give as best as overview as I can on general terms, but eventually every one of you should look into your business activity and where your business is going to take place, how the taxes will work out. And why Estonian company? Again, first presentation by Jan was really good on this topic, but these are like my points where I think the Estonia really stands out in the world. So the location independence that you will have is a game changer for a lot of business owners. You can do everything online. I think now there's nothing basically that you have to go to the notary. Even the notarial actions can be done online with e-notary, and then this is like the latest development. So this is a really good point for Estonia. Also, the low bureaucracy. It's really fast. You can basically download all of your company documents online. The only thing you should, when you need them, like documents in a physical form, is when you need them in your home country. Maybe they need it apostilled or notarized. We can do that, but usually you just download the template from online registry. You can share the template with everybody you want to share it with. So again, the documentation part is really really good, and then you don't have a much bureaucracy in Estonia. Now, when you actually start to establish the company, the startup cost and management costs are also quite low. Since we have a branch in UK as well, then it's usually a competition between UK and Estonia where to open the company. After Brexit, actually a lot of UK companies have moved to Estonia because they want to get the access to EU markets. And again, if you, for example, in Hungary have some kind of business connection in UK, you can open the company in Estonia and actually do business in UK, because we can support you in that country as well. You don't have to have a separate UK company for that. Again, you get online banking in Estonia. Estonia is part of international organizations. Again, opens a lot of doors. You don't have so many restrictions selling your goods or providing your services. So it's all a big benefit here. And then the last benefit is taxes. But again, I'll go into that a little bit later. So before you start, you participating in this webinar is the first step actually. So do your research. This webinar will give you some important information on the way of doing that research. So think about your business plan, how you're going to set everything up, what kind of obligations you might have, what are the tax rates going to be. Maybe there are some other requirements. Maybe your business needs a license. So all of those things need to be considered. Also, your management structure, ownership structure. Is there like one founder, two founder? Maybe one of the founders is a company. Whatever you might want to do, just think about it. Ask the service providers, ask e-residency team, ask info from the embassy in Hungary. Also the company name, as Jan said, it will take some time to think about the good company name. I think it is important, but some names are already taken. Some names are trademark protected in Europe. So again, service providers usually help you to choose the correct name. Like you have something in mind, if it's taken, we will let you know what's something similar that could go through the registration process. Then think about your field of activity, your business activity. Although in Estonia, you have to mention your business activity once you start the business, but once you create it. But once you actually start providing services or offering some goods, you can freely change your activity. You don't have to notify anybody. You're doing consultation. Maybe tomorrow you want to do some kind of construction work. Just start doing it, and you are free to do it. And also think about your share capital. There is a minimum requirement of 2,500 euros, but I'll go into that later as well as I go into more detail about taxes. So I divided this presentation into two, basically like legal aspects and tax aspects. One Office launched my One Office platform. It will be a home for your business, and via that platform you can actually open the company in one day. And then there are some responsibilities that your company will have. So I've listed them here, but each next slide will cover the points separately. So the first obligation that you will have, or the requirement, you have to have an Estonian address. You want to look for a service provider who's licensed to offer this service. Not everyone can offer the service. Most of the service providers can do it, but I still recommend looking into it. Also, if your board is located in Hungary, which it most likely will be, then it's outside of Estonia, which means that legally you are required to have a contact person. Again, we in One Office can offer this service. So you will get a local address in Estonia, and you will also get a contact person that will transfer you all of the correspondence from the government, all of the important documents that you might need. All of that goes through One Office, and we are responsible for you receiving them. And this is a requirement when the board is outside of Estonia. About the accounting and annual report, this is something that comes up most often actually with the clients. So everybody are worried, what are the maintenance costs here, where the maintenance costs come into play. You have to do accounting for the company, but you have the option to keep it really, really simple. And to keep it really simple, you only submit an annual report once a year. And so you don't have to do it on a monthly basis, but you have to submit the annual report, which will conclude all of your accounting at once. So you'll do it with the annual report. Then again, if you have like really good business, there are many clients, many partners, you pay invoices, you receive invoices, and then you issue invoices, then you might want to consider monthly accounting, because if no accounting has been done, then the annual report fees can be quite high. So you can distribute your costs evenly month by month. And then once the time to submit the annual report comes, Then we have all of your accounting data. We export it from the accounting software, and we can quite easily compose the annual report, in which case the annual report fee is much, much lower. But each one of you will have different fees because it depends on the number of transactions you have and other details. But there is an exception. If you reach the VAT threshold, which is 40,000 euros in Estonia, then you're obligated to apply for a VAT number. Some of my customers also wish to get the VAT number immediately. Then again, once you have the VAT number, you have to do accounting every month, because in order to maintain the VAT number, declarations have to be submitted to the e-tax office. So again, we can do it online. As Jan said, these services are online. So the fees usually on a monthly basis are quite low due to the fact that everything is online. And there's another point here is that when you plan to employ Estonians who live and work from Estonia, then you also have to do their payrolls every month. And then also you need monthly accounting or somebody who knows how to do it. Because taxes have to be paid on those salaries in Estonia, and the accountant, for example, in one office would happily do that for you. So this comes into play with the management costs or running costs of the company. Then the share capital, as I promised, there is a minimum requirement, but the owner decides actually how much it's going to be. Most of the cases, the 2,500 is the standard, and everybody is using that. And you need to pay it in at some point to get out your profits from the company, so the corporate profits. I'll talk about the corporate profits later, but I'll talk how to pay in the share capital and how it works. So you can use actually an online bank like FinTech solution. For example, TransferWise works really well with this solution. You pay it in, you get a certificate from them. TransferWise is a former Estonian company now registered in UK. They issue the certificate in Estonian, digitally signed, and we can simply submit to the tax office again. The tax office, we submit the declaration on capital. To business registry, we submit that the capital has been paid. So it's like we have to submit the data to 2 different organizations, but again, it's online. It's easy to do, it goes quickly. And that's about it, about share capital. Most of clients pay it in within the first business year, but some decide to defer the payment for a later period, and that's fine. We have companies who have not paid this in for 5 years or even longer, so that's not a big deal either, but I will tell you later how it plays a role. So those were the legal aspects. Now a little bit about the tax aspects. Taxes have to be paid somewhere. So e-residency is not the means to avoid taxation. You can open the company, but then you have to pay taxes either in Estonia, maybe in Hungary, maybe in some other country. So definitely look into this. And if you want to get the most precise data, hire a tax consultant, maybe in your home country first, and then maybe in Estonia. You can also hire it with one office. But look into the double taxation treaty. It's a tax treaty between Estonia and Hungary. In that tax treaty, it's highlighted how the corporate and personal income works. So that's the best source of information. It's a little bit dry reading, but it's quite understandable. So you can see how it will work for you in Hungary. So there was a point about permanent establishment. So again, Estonia is not a means to avoid taxation, and permanent establishment maybe is the most important point here, because if you're managing your company from a foreign country, from Hungary, then you'll need to consult with the local consultant there. What happens if you do all of the business from Hungary? Your management board is in Hungary, but the legal body is in Estonia, the company is in Estonia. What will happen? Will they in Hungary consider this as a permanent establishment? And does this mean that you will have some tax obligations in Hungary? It's something that a local specialist in Hungary can tell you. It usually depends on the volumes, on the number of transactions, what kind of business are you doing? Is it a service? Do you maybe manufacture goods or sell goods? So all of those details are really, really important when we decide where the permanent establishment is created. Management place is really important. You can create a permanent establishment. The second way you can create a permanent establishment is when your Estonian company has permanent business, for example, in Germany or in any other country in the world, maybe in Russia or Japan. So if you do business in those countries or in some specific country permanently, and it's the only destination market for you, then also you should look into the local laws. Will they consider your business as a permanent establishment? If they do consider, then the general taxation rules do not apply. So what I've heard from clients is that usually the volumes and numbers are not that big to create the permanent establishment. But for example, in Finland and Sweden, where we have more expertise, we have a lot of examples where clients actually will create a permanent establishment for their Estonian company. Then again, we can help you with the necessary registrations and accounting and or compliance. But in some other countries, you have to just do your research, as I mentioned in the beginning. Will you have some obligations in some other countries as well? But the tax benefits, so here's where the corporate income tax comes into play, and here's where the double tax treaty also comes into play. So usually when a double tax treaty between two countries is signed, then it means that you have to pay the corporate income tax only in one country. But the specifics are also, again, highlighted in the double tax treaty. And Estonia is, I think, one of the best places to grow your business. Because if you do not distribute the profits out to the owners, then you don't pay any corporate income tax. So it's 0% in that case. You can operate many years without paying out any profits for the owners. And then effectively, nobody's going to tax the corporate income on your company in Estonia. So you can grow, every year 20% will be left to you to reinvest it. You want to reinvest it in stocks, you can do that. You can reinvest it into your equipment. So whatever you want to do with the company's activity, you can reinvest your profit, or you can just keep it there, as Jan said. And then another benefit, and then I do actually encourage everybody to look into this as well. Since Hungary is in European Union, you can easily move to Estonia, and if the climate is okay with you, there's a lot of room and a lot of availability here. If you come and move to Estonia, then you can actually get the full tax benefits of the tax system, which means that you pay only the corporate tax once you distribute out the profits. You don't pay any personal income tax on it. So it's just 20%, and rest is for the owner if you live in Estonia. So again, there are companies available to help you with this, how to move here, how to get your apartments and so on. And also service providers can direct you to the right place if you have something like this in mind. But now just about maybe more about One Office and our platform, My One Office, and how to actually kickstart the process if you're interested in proceeding. So the first step is to apply for the e-residency card and pick it up in Budapest. Or if you're somewhere else, you can choose your pickup location and pick it up there. Then visit our website. It's an online platform. It's going to be a home for your business. It has a direct connection with the business registry, and you can get the company registered in 20 minutes. And this is no joke. You fill in the application, that maybe takes 15 minutes. And the fastest company that we registered was 20 minutes. So that's kind of true what Jan said. You also can then choose your banking option and then start your activities. Once you have the bank opened, it also takes 1 or 2 days with the online banks. Then you can start your activities, start issuing sales invoices and providing your services. And why I recommend one office? Of course, I work here. I like this company. We have a good, energetic team, young team. But the main thing is there is no hidden fees or no hidden agendas. As I went over these tax aspects as well, I try to give you as honest overview as possible, so you would have the most information available. And we do the same with the fees. So that's a bonus here. Also, compared to some other service providers, we allow multiple founders, and we offer services to all kinds of activities as long as they're legal. We have international experience. So we have a branch in UK, Sweden, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland. Again, if you want to expand, do business there, you can ask us. I already mentioned this direct connection with business registry. It makes things faster. And then I many times already mentioned my one office platform that we recently launched. And this will be like a home for your business. You can see your posts, your accounting work. We are soon to have their translations and legal contract templates. So it will soon be upgraded on a permanent basis. Like we want to do upgrades all the time. And it's just a really, really good place for you to manage all of your business. And there's also our own knowledge base, which means that you can get access to free information, very detailed information that's not otherwise available. Little bit about the setup costs. So here are the standard fees. The main initial setup cost is 555 euros. And with this fee, you can be operational for a year. You'll get the address for a year, and of course the company itself also. It already includes the state fee. But for recurring costs, next year, once the financial year has ended, you do have to submit this annual report at the minimum. So that fee starts from 175 euros plus VAT. If you take monthly accounting, then the minimum fee is 65 euros. So that's the calculation below. But depending on your business transactions, your volumes, your business activity, each of our clients has a different fee. So, so I really cannot estimate what's your annual fee going to be eventually, but here are the general fees that we offer. So if you contact us, just ask, give us as much information as possible, and then we can also estimate your final or eventual fees. So that's the way to process this step. And this is basically it from my side. I try to do it as quick as possible, because I think questions and answers is the most important part. I already saw a lot of communication there in chat and then in the question room. So I will take a look at those questions when Hendrik talks. I'll pick up some of my favorites, and also I think Kristi or Jan will moderate the questions and answers. So I hope to get a lot of questions from you, and then please definitely contact me in One Office. Google us, see my One Office platform, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tõnis. I would just remind everybody that if you have any questions that you would like to be addressed in the final part, then please ask them in the questions and answer section, where we will take the questions up. In the chat, I see that there is a very active conversation going on. You're of course free to use it, but we would pick the questions rather from the questions and answers. And now finally, we would have Henrik Lassu here, who is a Hungarian and has been e-resident, I believe, since quite from the beginning already, at least for 6 or 7 years already. So you will definitely have some very good hints from him in this regard. So Please go ahead, Henrik.
All right, thank you so much, and thank you for everyone before me. I will mainly go into my first-hand experience. So if you have any more specific questions, I think the Q&A part, back to one office, and depending on the question, obviously, but that will be probably the best. But I'll try to answer any questions that are more Hungarian specific. Also, if anyone's here, let me just not see the chat because then I get distracted. If any Hungarians are here and for whatever reason you want to ask Hungarian questions, beszélek magyarul, teljesen többnyire jól. So feel free to ask any questions in Hungarian as well. So just a real quick introduction about myself. So I'm 24 at the time of this live. I will be 25 this June. I started my whole entrepreneurial journey by quitting university at 19. So it's been about 5 years, almost 6. It's been quite a long time. And there was a lot of things I tried in the beginning, but the first one that really stuck with me was marketing, more specifically social media marketing. That was the kind of the core of everything I enjoyed to do in my previous endeavors when I tried to build an online business. So that ended up, well, first obviously started off with a freelance career with some clients here and there. And to be frank, I maybe had some Hungarian clients, but I was never really looking specifically to be local. So it was just something that most of my friends weren't Hungarian. Most of my like business peers, I guess, like let's say half of them were Hungarian, other half from wherever the world they were coming from. So it was never really in my mind. And so when this whole freelancing company, or one-man company at the time, kind of grew into an agency, obviously, as more clients came on, I needed to have some other freelancers do the work for me. And then we got a lot of leads. So then we had to have someone help with the sales aspects of it. And then at some point, you obviously need accounting help, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it kind of grew into an agency very fast. And still to this day, it operates very nicely. But that was at a point where I think I was 20, maybe 21, closer to 20. There was a very distinct point where I started thinking about the whole kind of the bureaucracy of running a company. So far, my focus has been, I'm a new online entrepreneur. I don't know how to make money. I really should make money if I'm not going to look for a job and if I'm not going to have a uni degree. So that was kind of my main focus. And then once we started hitting revenue goals that I was very happy with, now I realized that, okay, once you make money, that's fine. But then all of a sudden you have all these, I don't know how to say it in a nice way, all these burdens that come with it, both on the tax part, both on the paperwork / administrative work part. So that's why I've originally started looking into kind of finding a solution that would help me do my job the best, because if I can make the most money, then I can pay everyone else better money. And then our clients make more money. So it's just the best thing for me and for everyone around me and in the company and our clients, if I don't have to spend a lot of time with administrative work. So that was kind of the origin of the whole thing. Now, when it comes to what we do, again, everything online in my company. So that was kind of my starting point for the whole e-residency. Now, this was obviously before I knew about e-residency. But that was kind of the starting point. Like, okay, we do client acquisition online. I obviously don't go and meet someone in the US just to see if they want to work with us. Like that wouldn't make a lot of sense. We do the same with client work. Obviously, I don't require anyone to be Hungarian and work in an office so they can do one project that I hire them for us to help. So everything was online already. So when I started looking into, okay, well, what's the next step? In Hungary, there is a good, we call it kata. There's a good way of small entrepreneurs to pay taxes, and it's very straightforward. But once you cross the revenue limit or threshold, then you need to open up a proper company, and then it gets very complicated. Both on the taxes side, there are a lot of little like hidden taxes and hidden fees, and then obviously in the administrative side. So since my business wasn't necessarily restricted to Hungary, still to this day, I think I only had one Hungarian client, as far as I remember. It was kind of natural for me to look for other solutions. So I started looking, obviously online, Reddit, and all the other forums. And so I came across basically a couple of solutions. Now, the first one was Stripe Atlas. It allows you to set up a company in Delaware. Obviously, everyone can look after these sort of solutions. For me, that wasn't really the case, that it would solve my problems, because the US has a lot of problems that I would have in Hungary as well. It's very difficult to get out of there if you want your company to get out of there. It's very expensive. It would be also very difficult for me to travel there. If for whatever reason I need to. So that wasn't really a solution. The other one, and I ended up going, by the way, first with one office in the UK. That was the first attempt. And while that was pretty good for the time being, the taxes are really high. And now with Brexit, again, kind of on the brink, and now it went through, there wasn't really a good permanent solution either. So that's why I came to the whole e-residency program, the whole e-residency idea. And so far in the last, I don't even know how long, like 4 or 5 years, I have my company there, and I'm very happy with it. So that's kind of what I want to walk through. I think we kind of went through how it works. So I just want to go through the hands-on experience of it. So basically you go, and maybe we can leave a link here on how to apply, like the actual application form, if someone wants to go through. But at the time when I applied, it was a simple application form. You upload some documents, like your ID documents. I mean, you fill out the form. I think you need like a short letter of why you want to be an Estonian e-resident. And then you obviously agree to the terms and agree to the whole process, like, you know, what it's for, what it's not for. And then I think it's 100 euros of a processing fee or state fee or whatever it's called. And that's it. And then it goes through. You never need to go to Estonia. You don't need to have these weird like online verification kind of automated calls that some of these processes have. So it was very straightforward. And then for me, I picked a service provider. So to start the whole company process. Now, obviously, I needed to wait for my card, which is, I'm not going to show it because my ID is on there, but I've got it next to me here. It's the same card that you guys all seen, the blue card with the black box. And then once that came, the first time I think I got it to Vienna and then it got lost. So then I ended up getting it in Budapest again. And that was very fast. That was probably 3 weeks or something like that. Once that came in the mail, I went to, I think it was Kenneth as well, maybe, probably, yes. And I picked it up. The embassy is actually pretty close to me. It was like maybe 15 minutes with a cab. I think I went with Bolt, by the way. I still use Bolt to this day a lot. So I went there, picked it up, plugged it in. It comes with the, not just the card, obviously, but the reader as well, which is how you can use it online. Plugged it in, went through the process back with my service provider to finish opening up a company. And from that point on, I think it was 2 days. And my company was fully ready to go. I could use it. I could invoice. I could do all the stuff that my Hungarian company would be able to do. But it was just way easier. So that was kind of how the process went. Now, I may have left out some things or maybe it changed since then. So don't take this at 100% face value, because again, I'm not really, like, my main job is to make money for the company. It's not to be a very good tax or paperwork or administrative advisor. So this was kind of my experience. I may have forgot some things. So that's about why I went with the e-residency. And some of this kind of ties in on why I stayed. I think that's the most important part. Now, these are going to be very specific to my situations, but I just wanted to point out a couple of things. Now, the first and most important that everyone talks about, but you don't really understand the benefits of fully unless you go through the experience, is how easy it is to manage everything. Now, this obviously partially thanks to the whole e-residence and the e-service system that Estonia has. Another part is obviously with the service providers. But everything is, for me as a company owner, as an entrepreneur, is just so easy. If I had any questions, which I did not have a lot, in Hungary, you have a lot of, I mean, probably all the Hungarians know this. If you go to a tax consultant, if you go to any sort of advisor, they can almost never give you a straight answer. It's almost like well, we have a precedent in this and then in this, so maybe it's like this, maybe, and you never really get a straight answer. So far, I have not encountered any of that, neither with taxes, nor with VAT, nor with any specific service. Like, it was just very straightforward for me. I never had any problems. Again, that comes down to the organization that you go with as well. If they have proper support, which I think one office has as well as the one that I'm with right now, then it's just very straightforward. So I never had any problems with that. And again, that sounds like a very small thing, but when you have 1,000 things to do and a lot of things on your mind, it makes night and day difference for me, not having to spend 4 hours every month on trying to figure out random things just so I don't get fined a lot, which would happen here a lot. It happened to most of my friends. So that's kind of the most important general aspect. Other than that, 2 things attracted me to Estonia, which again were partially represented in other countries as well, but 2 things that I made very good use of. One is Stripe. So if you, probably most of you know Stripe, it's a payment processor. I believe it is the best one right now, both when it comes to its fees and the way it works, the way it operates. Again, it's just very simple and does the job really well. And at the time, that was not available in Hungary. Now, it is currently available in Hungary, but as far as I know, thanks to our amazing bureaucracy, it is not accountable, meaning, but again, I don't know, I don't use it in Hungary, but that's kind of what I heard with friends is, sure, you can use it as a payment gateway, but no accountant is going to be able to use it for your tax forms and everything else. The only one that Hungary supports, I think, is PayPal. And we all know that's very expensive. I mean, the fees in PayPal. So that was kind of a very specific thing that I needed. And I still use it to this day a lot, even with my agency clients. It's just way easier to put the agency client's business card on a retainer subscription in Stripe. You just set it up with like probably 3 clicks, and it just charges that amount every month. And I don't need to do any of the things that you would need to do in PayPal. And it's obviously way easier than having them wire transfer that over a lot. Yeah, so someone said, but PayPal is only if you set up your own invoice template, etc. Yeah, so for me, all this invoicing nightmare is just so simple. And now, by the way, and I'm not sure, maybe Tonis, you will climb in after this, but on how the invoicing actually works. But as far as I know, the way we do it, I don't even really need to invoice anymore. I need to send something to my customers, but my service provider, they just get it out of Stripe, all the information if they submit it, which again, it just saves me, like actually saves me money, because I don't need to hire an assistant to collect all the data and make the invoices and send it there and upload it and all that sort of thing, which is very good. I do need to do it if there is a proper VAT intra-community thing, because then you need the VAT number, but that's very small amount. That's the agency part. But anyway, that's kind of the general parts of it. And then why I like really Stripe. Now, again, this might be applicable to you, might not be, but for me, this was a huge thing. And then especially when it comes to expense filing, VAT filing, all those sort of things, I never had to do any of that. And I would like to think I'm a smart guy, but every time I look at these forms, I realize how I'm really not smart. So I just really, really appreciate me not having to dig through all the laws and all the guides and everything anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's Estonia or not. And by the way, Estonia has them all in English, or most of them in English. So that's actually very helpful. But I just really appreciate me not having to go through there. And the company does it all for me. I don't need to remember 20 different deadlines every year. So the whole process just makes my job so much easier to actually run the company and do the things that make us revenue, so that I can pay everyone I work with, so that the clients are happy, and then I'm happy and everyone's happy. So that's kind of my experience and the most benefits. Now, we will, after this, go through the Q&A. So probably there will be a lot of very specific things that come up, but I've seen a lot of the questions regarding taxes specific. So that's probably back to one office on how that works. From my experience, I never had to pay any personal income tax in Estonia, right? So I obviously have to pay the corporate there if there is any, and all the VAT there, but personal taxes for me have been always paid in Hungary. That's kind of the best to my knowledge, ability. But again, that very much depends on how you actually get the money out. But yes, that's kind of no one really knows what's up there. So I just went with what all the accountants and everyone recommended me. But probably I'm not the best person to talk to about that. I just have a person that does it for me. And the last thing, I kind of want to leave it off because I think, I mean, I run a service-based business. So regardless if it's a state service, like the e-residence program, or if it's a private one, like we run with my agency, I think the best way to measure the success of it is not necessarily the numbers, although that obviously helps a lot, but I think it's how word of mouth kind of spreads around. If people really like a product that you put out, then they will very likely recommend it to others. And that's a very good way of measuring. So this last year, well, now it's the last year, 2020 and 2019, we started a sub-brand in Hungary where we didn't really want to do services for other people because it just wasn't worth it for us. So we just started teaching. And because of that, I became friends with a lot of Hungarian entrepreneurs. And so far in 2020, I know of 4 of them that very specifically asked me about the e-residency program, and then since have opened up a company like I did in Estonia through the e-residency program. And that's all because they all worked next to me. They all talked to me about it, and I just told them about how simple and easy it was. And every single one of them had this kind of facepalm moment of, well, why do I have to go through that stuff in Hungary here if I can just kind of get rid of it and do the same stuff that you do? Now, again, this depends on what kind of business you run. And I've seen a lot of e-commerce questions as well. So maybe that can be answered more specifically. I do not run an e-commerce business, so I cannot answer that. But from the service providing aspect, I think this is the way easier way of going about it. So that was kind of my experience. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask me there. I see one here, and then I'm guessing we'll go into the Q&A. But what is my target-based customer? So I'm guessing that's to me. We used to work with a lot of e-commerce companies and online coaches, mainly in the paid traffic, consulting, and obviously services niche. And now we're getting a lot more into content production, content marketing with YouTube. We believe in YouTube quite a lot. If you know our Hungarian brands, then you know that. We invest heavily into YouTube. So that's kind of where we're shifting to. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, obviously in the Q&A section, I'll be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Henrik, for sharing your experience with us. I believe we've got loads of questions. I hope all of the speakers have gone through these and can pick the ones that are most relevant for them. And with this, I would actually give the moderating role over to Jan, who will probably also answer many of the questions, and then maybe Denise has got the most with taxation and all these issues.
So thank you, Kristi, and thank you very much, Henrik, for such a great overview of your journey as an e-resident. So yeah, we have here quite a lot of questions. So if in the Q&A box alone, we have 52. So many of them are quite complicated, and I would ask all of you who don't hear an answer to your question to write to our support. So that is also possible after, but we will try to take as many questions as we can right now. So let's take them in the order they were submitted. Rosen has met Kenneth Kopamees, which is really pleasure to hear, I'm sure. And Rosen is wondering if we are planning to gather an event for e-residents from Hungary. So online or later face-to-face. So yeah, it's a bit difficult to do that online, right? So this is the event online, but it doesn't allow for such effective networking as it would be face-to-face. So I'm sure if we are moving on with e-residency in Hungary, we will make an event together with the embassy soon enough. So
could I just add here that we actually have had already one such event in the embassy, and we plan to have one, I believe, each year. But of course, now due to Corona, we haven't been able to continue, but we will definitely organize.
So soon we will do that again. And this question was had two parts, and the second part was about taxes. And I would give the floor to Tõnis to answer the second part of the same question.
Sure. There are actually two aspects here. One of them is the corporate income tax. If you take out the dividends, you are the company owner in Estonia, take it out, and you pay the corporate tax in Estonia, then according to the tax treaty that Estonia has with Hungary, it's highlighted how the income is received in Hungary and how it's taxed there. I went it through. I think it was, there were three different options there. It was either 5%, 0%, or 25%, depending on your activity. So go look into it. Each one of you might have a separate answer for this question. But there's another side. So we didn't really go through this with Jan in the slides, but you can also get salary from the company. So if you pay a salary every month, then Estonian salary taxes will not be applied. You are a tax resident in Hungary, so your salary is paid according to salary taxation rules in Hungary. So you take out, I don't know, 2,000 euros is the pay fund. Then from that 2,000 euros, you apply your Hungarian tax laws, and that's what you get in Hungary. So there are two ways to get it. One of them is salary, and the other one is to distribute the profit to the owner, which you can do like maybe 2, maximum 3 times a year. If you do it more often, then it can be considered salary. And as usually is the rule, salaries are taxed higher than are the dividends or corporate taxes.
Perfect. Thank you for this answer. So the second question was from Usama, and you're asking about the copy of the presentation. So as we discussed already in the chat, this presentation is this webinar is being recorded. So we will send you the recording of this webinar later in the follow-up email. So yes, you can have a copy of this webinar. Scandinavian business culture. So anonymous attendee is asking about how what impact did our Soviet history have on the business and mindset in Estonia, and is it an impediment for access to Scandinavian markets as advertised in the slides? So yeah, it is a little bit of a provocative question, I'm sure, but on the other hand, I'm sure that our history in the Eastern Bloc, so to say, also brings us closer to some other markets in the Eastern Europe and former Soviet Union. So still very many people speak also Russian. So I'm sure it wasn't a beneficial time for the Estonian state, but still the last 30 years that we have spent as a free economy, part of the Scandinavian business culture. And of course, the Scandinavian countries started to invest into Estonia at once when the country became available for investment. So I'm sure that the last 30 years have had a much larger impact, and we are now fully integrated into the Scandinavian business culture. So I think that you should try it out yourself. But of course, we have a heritage from both the Scandinavian and the being part of the Soviet Union much before that. So next question is about corporate income tax. So after paying the 20% corporate income tax, even if I am a company owner or private entrepreneur, I don't pay anything more. So yeah, this is maybe again a question to one office. What would you say?
Yeah, I would go back to the same answer that I had for the previous question I answered. That again depends, where are you living, where are you working, and yeah, you pay the 20% in Estonia. If the country where you're working and living has a double taxation treaty, then you can look into that treaty, what has been written there. If you don't have a tax treaty, then you will need to just consult with your government. How will they tax the foreign income that you receive in your home country? So that's how it usually is regulated. But the second question I already see is about taxation with Netherlands. Yes, we have that. And actually, I don't know, maybe we can share this, but there are 55 or something states that Estonia has tax treaties with, and all of those treaties are available also in English. So maybe we can share the link from MTAC. I don't know, Jan.
Yes, of course. We can write it into the chat. But yeah, I think that there are even, like right now, maybe 60 countries that we have the tax treaties with. And right now, E-Residency is working together with the PricewaterhouseCoopers in order to make specific tax explanations to nationals from the main target countries of E-Residency. I think there will be about 25 specific sets of recommendations. So many of your questions can be answered on the basis of this actually very soon. In a matter of weeks, we will publish that on our website. So stay tuned. And yeah, Benjamin has also a related question related to the double taxation as a process. Not that you have to pay in two countries, because yes, the double taxation treaty makes sure of that if you pay your tax in one country, then the other country will not take the same tax. But of course, it may be the case that your company, of course, as an Estonian company, will have the bookkeeping in Estonia, but you will have to hire or ask someone in your own country, be it Hungary or Netherlands, about how the tax authorities in your home countries will treat the income that you receive. And of course, as also was mentioned by Tõnis, there can be permanent establishment in either of the countries. So you will pay taxes where your permanent establishment is eventually located. So it depends on where the value is created, and it also depends on where the management decisions are taken. But e-residency, of course, in itself doesn't mean that you will have a tax residency in Estonia personally. This is what Henrik was also mentioning. But your Estonian company, by default, is an Estonian tax resident. Later, you will ascertain in which country your permanent establishment is and pay your taxes there. It can also be proportional. It can also be exactly that part of your taxes will be paid in Hungary and part in Estonia. So this is not so straightforward. It depends, as they say, but yeah, indeed, your Estonian company's accounting will be in Estonia, but some of the taxes may be due in your home country. So next is about VAT. I think this is again a question for Tõnis.
Yeah, so on both cars, you can get the deduction on VAT. Now the question is, will you buy it in Hungary or some other country, or in Estonia? If it's in Estonia, it's the question, can you really lease it, or you will fully buy it out? But in general, yes, you can get the VAT taxation, but the question should more be focused on the question where to buy it and where to get this VAT deduction. Because maybe you want to buy it in Hungary, then you already buy, and you have Estonian VAT number, you already buy it from a company in Hungary who also has a VAT number, so you can reverse charge already. But if you buy it from the Estonian reseller or retail seller, then you indeed pay the VAT amount, but you can later deduct it. So if you come to Estonia, you can see that in some areas we have a lot of fancy cars, and they usually buy it with their company. So yes, it is allowed.
Yeah. The second part was actually how long will it take to receive the amount back? So I think that that this applies not only to cars but to any VAT refunds.
Mm-hmm. It's done monthly, so I don't remember the exact date, but maybe 15th day of the month. So you buy it in January, then on the 15th of February, you can reverse charge it or get the VAT deduction back already. For the other, maybe you bought some other services or products also, you can, again, do the calculation directly in the e-tax office, and you don't have to pay anything to anybody, and nobody has to pay you anything. You can just deduct them. So, yeah.
So the good thing about the Estonian tax system is that this works like clockwork. So very many people from other countries have said that they have to wait and apply, and then they don't really know when they get the refund. But in Estonia, it really works as promised, and it's really quick process. So the next question I think is for me. What is the strategy of the new management team of e-residency? So how will e-residency continue to develop in the future? So indeed, we have the new managing director, Lauri Haaf, on board since the beginning of this year, which I'm very glad of. We have a new strategy. But about how e-residency will continue to develop. So we have maybe a couple of things that I would like to point out. First, it is cardless e-residency. So right now, the ID card makes it really convenient for you to access the Estonian e-services. But what if there would be no card? Then then getting the e-residency wouldn't take you 4 to 5 weeks, for example. It would take less time, and it would be even more convenient. So right now already you can sign up to Smart ID in order to use your mobile phone also to sign. So it is a service that is available for you. If you don't want to use your card, you can do everything with your mobile phone. But in the future, we are working on making the user experience even more comfortable and easy. So this movement towards even more ease of doing business is constant, and it will not end. What else? I think the other thing that I would like to mention is the networking effect. So right now already the e-resident community consists of 77,000 people all over the world, from anywhere in the world. And we are trying to facilitate the business relations between the e-residents. Already right now, we have this company list, we call it company list or company network on our website, where actually every e-resident company can register themselves in order to network with other e-resident companies. So this is something that we also are quite proud to have and to facilitate. So in the future, we will facilitate business relations between e-residents more and more. So the next question that I would take also myself is e-Estonia e-residency available also for third country nationals? So basically, e-residency is available for people from all over the world. So we do not have a list of countries that we don't work with. But of course, the fintech companies and service providers can have lists of companies that they would not onboard if they make the KYC process themselves. So indeed, it is available, but sometimes it might be more difficult to establish a bank account, for example, a banking account as an e-resident. For a Hungarian e-resident, getting a bank account in a traditional bank might not be that hard, but actually we recommend all of the e-residents to get an account in a fintech institution, for example, in TransferWise. So I can see Henrik nodding, so I want Henrik's opinion on this, definitely.
Yeah, sure thing. In the meantime, sorry, like there was a massive Hungarian discussion, so Hopefully the Hungarians can get back to English as well. All the taxation questions, because no one really knows what's up. Neither the Hungarian government, by the way. But when it comes to TransferWise, I don't know, it's the same as with Stripe, as with the resident, like just same experience all over again. It's just very simple, very straightforward to do. With fintechs, there is always an added layer of insecurity, I guess, because they don't have the physical bank location that a normal bank would have. But so far, I didn't have any sort of bad experience with them. Only good ones. They're way faster, way cheaper, by the way. The wire transfer fees are way cheaper than even Hungarian banks. And to this day, as much as I like Estonia, I still haven't set foot in the country. Probably due to the pandemic, I will not in the future as well, in the short future anyway. And I still operate a Euro account. Now they have foreign accounts as well, like HUF, our currency as well, if for whatever reason you want to convert it. So for me, it's again the same thing all over again. It's just very simple, very straightforward to do. Works very well with all the other parts of running a company online, like my accounting, my Stripe. I don't know, everything else just kind of works very nicely. So yeah, I would very much recommend TransferWise.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, on the website there is a comparison of about I think 6 fintech companies that are onboarded as our verified service providers also. So you can compare TransferWise, Stripe, Payoneer, Visera, and others between each other, and they have, as Henrik said, some of their value propositions are actually better than traditional banks because their services and products are specifically designed for such companies, for e-residents especially. Some of them have designed their services specifically for e-residents. So I think that that in a way it is more convenient. It is a more approachable service, definitely, and cheaper. So would recommend to work with fintech companies. So yeah, there are a few more tax-related questions. So, for example, from a Hungarian freelancer who works more than 6 months per year in Hungary. So in these cases, indeed, the tax residency may stay in Hungary. But what is the reason to form a company in Estonia? Comparing to other countries where everything can be done online? This is the next question. So I would like to see a country where everything can be done online, except Estonia. So Estonia is really the first to bring all these services online, and still the first and the only one who has a working e-residency system that allows you access to all of the services. So as was said before, some other countries have started to follow suit. For example, Lithuania even right now is following suit. Their e-residency rollout was delayed a little bit. They were already supposed to roll it out, but of course, taking into consideration the similarities of our systems, it can be seen that they are learning from us. So I think that there is no other country that still has a comparable business environment that can be accessed fully online. So I think that Henrik's experience only confirms that it is really fully online, and in other countries it is not yet fully online and not that easy. So 20 years of development already in that sphere in Estonia. So that makes us the pioneer and the easiest place to run your company fully online. So there is a question about what are the requirements for a residence permit. So yeah, as Tõnis before said, that e-residency doesn't give you any residence permit, but if you establish a company in Estonia, then that could be one of the criteria how to get your residence permit. So you do business, you invest in Estonia, you do real business, you bring your actual business to Estonia, and you need a residence permit. So indeed, this is one of the reasons to get the residence permit. So e-residency can get you a step closer to that. As Tõnis also mentioned, there is the startup visa, and there are ways for startup company owners, founders, to get the residence permit in Estonia. There is also a way to get the residence permit for employment, especially if you are a specialist. If you are an IT specialist, for example, then it makes things much more easy for even people coming from outside of the EU. But you know, inside of the EU, it is quite easy to move around and to work anywhere. So yeah, there are quite a lot of different grounds for getting residence permit, and after that, in 7 years, citizenship. So e-residency only takes you one step closer to that. If you establish a company, then you have to bring your actual business to Estonia. So maybe what is the next question? Yeah, it is about salary taxes and income tax on salary. So I think that Tõnis already commented on that. Do you have anything to add?
Not really. I think I went over this. I would be repeating myself. But I see an interesting question about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We actually, it's allowed that your Estonian company receives payments in Bitcoin. So that's not wrong. But if you want to like offer some kind of wallet service or something like that, then you have to be careful. You probably will need licenses and such things. But the question that Carl Richard is asking about Bitcoin is that you already have this Bitcoin. It's not company's Bitcoin, it's yours. So if you pay the Bitcoin in, it would be like a loan, but just in Bitcoin. It's a loan from the company owner to the company, just in Bitcoin, not in euros. So the loan has to be paid back. So yes, you can convert it, you can use it for business, but eventually you would have to pay it back. So it wouldn't be maybe just beneficial if you already have this Bitcoin. But if you want to receive payments in Bitcoin, that's fine.
Yeah, all right, good. Good that you answered the next one. So there is quite a long letter from Ayman, and I think that Ayman should send this letter to the support because it's a little bit too complicated. It's got so many notes and questions in it that we would rather not go into it, and it's very specific to your business. But feel free to send it to the support and of course to one office. Why not? Next question is again about getting a VAT number from the start from Bence. Would you like to take that one, Tõnis?
Okay.
So, yeah, I can read it if you can't find it. Could you please answer? Oh, you found it. Good.
Mm-hmm. No, you don't need the VAT number from the start. But you should ask yourself a question. Do you need it? Who are your clients? Are your clients private persons or companies? If they are companies, other companies that are operating in Europe, and those companies who are your clients, and they are European companies and they have European VAT numbers, then you might want to get this Estonian VAT. Because then invoicing between each other is without the VAT amount. So you will also need to look into your expenses. Who are invoicing you? Like what kind of expenses will you have? If it's like, I don't know, Google ads and Facebook ads, then VAT number is not really useful for you. But if you receive maybe invoices from your supplier or manufacturer who has a European company with European VAT number, then they issue all of those invoices with the VAT amount if you don't have an Estonian VAT number. So in some cases, it's beneficial for you to get it immediately. In some cases, you should just wait until you reach the threshold. And in some cases, you don't need it at all. So again, it depends a lot. But with drop shipping, quite often clients actually don't apply for it. Or if they apply for it, they apply for it in maybe Germany or in some other country where most of their clients are from. Because at some point you reach the threshold there, and you might need the VAT number there. Again, dropshipping, really broad term. Maybe you're doing Amazon, then Amazon immediately wants you to register for a VAT number in the country where you store your goods. So again, a lot of details. Contact us at sales@oneoffice.co, and we can look into your business plan and give some feedback on this.
Excellent. Thank you. So the next question is about taxes in Hungary. So would you mind sharing what additional taxes have to be paid in Hungary in case of Hungarian residents after paying salary to myself or dividends? So indeed, we can't answer this question because we are not experts on the Hungarian tax regulations. But we are trying to add service providers also to our network in the target countries. So I don't know, does one office, for example, do you have a partner already in Hungary that you can refer to?
So far, not. Let's see what's the feedback after this webinar, because we do have some clients from Hungary, but it's not been like the biggest interest from there. But we've seen some growth from Czechia, also Hungary, Poland, so Eastern Bloc countries. There has been lately more interest from those countries, but we don't have a separate like partner there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I heard Hendrik say that your government also doesn't really know what are the requirements, and it's kind of funny to hear. Maybe Hendrik, if you search for the information, did you got anything that's actually accurate, or maybe you can share this part, because it's best if you talk about this. You maybe already paid some taxes there also on your salaries or income from the corporate income. So maybe you can share this part.
Yeah, so I'm very bad at these sort of things, so I can kind of only pass on the general knowledge. To the best of my knowledge and the best of the answers I could have gotten, both from accountants, consulting firms. Also, you can, and I would advise everyone in the Hungarian chat as well, to ask NAV, which is our tax agency, like the state tax government, I guess you would call it. They do everything regarding Hungarian taxes. And you can write them a letter, an email, and I think they have 30 days to answer. They usually do it shorter, but they have 30 days to answer, and they have to answer it. So you can just do that. That will probably help you a lot. But when we did that with a lot of my friends, each of our specific scenario, they couldn't give us a very straightforward answer. And that's not necessarily their fault. That's just kind of how the law works. There is very, usually, especially Hungarian law, but I would say most laws, it's not necessarily always black and white. It's that depends on why you do certain things, especially when it comes to tax. To the best of my knowledge, and obviously I'm not a tax consultant, if you're not avoiding taxes, meaning you're not doing something deliberately to avoid paying it, then you should be fine. So if you pay your personal taxes where you are, which is for me in Hungary, then that's fine. If you pay your corporate taxes in Estonia, because that's where your business is at, that's fine. Now, a couple of the things I know is if our revenue would solely or very largely come from Hungary, I think we should be paying Hungarian VAT as opposed to Estonian, but I don't know, because we don't really do a lot of business here, or we do business here, but most of our volume does not come from here. So we just pay Estonian VAT. And then because of that, we don't really need to pay a lot of VAT because the intra-community supply law. So that's another thing that might be worth discussing, by the way, because there are a couple of questions here regarding service VAT and the intra-community supply. I think it's a law, right? Or rule, I don't know, the EU thing where you don't really pay VAT on it. That could be something worth mentioning. But when it comes to that, to the best of my knowledge, as long as you're not avoiding paying taxes, so you're paying every tax that you have to, then there is no major repercussion. Even if you get something wrong, as long as you did not do it for the reason to avoid tax. Now, I saw some questions here, like someone literally straight up asked, like, how can you avoid paying XYZ tax? Well, probably that's illegal, right? You probably shouldn't do that. So if you're avoiding that, but a couple of things, like for example, corporate tax, if I were to have a Hungarian company, I would need to pay, I think, 9% every year, regardless if I take it out, if it's like just regardless, I just pay 9%, right? And that's legally avoidable. It's not avoiding it. If you have an Estonian company and you're not required to pay for whatever reason, again, I don't really know, But if there is a reason and you're not required to pay it in Hungary, then you wouldn't need to, right? So those are things. But again, since most of our clients come from all over the world, there is no real reason for me to pay any sort of corporate thing in Hungary other than my personal income, right? Which then I obviously pay here because I live here, and that's fine. That's kind of my experience. But again, no one has a straight up answer. But no one ever said that any of this is against any of the taxation laws, which is a good thing. And so far, I did not have any problems. None of my friends had any problems. I do not know of any person that would have any other problem if they did everything by the book to the best of their and their consultant, etc. abilities. So that's kind of the only thing I can add to this.
Yeah, indeed. So in fact, it is complicated. So we cannot answer you about every country. We cannot give you a specific answer. And as Henrik said, sometimes not even your tax authorities can give you a straightforward answer. It is a matter of interpretation. Sometimes it is a case-by-case thing. Yeah, you do have to ask from the local authorities and consultants. Henrik, you wanted to add?
Yes, just one more thing, by the way, because everyone said there was a couple of really nice people here, and by the way, they wrote it in Hungarian because it's only relevant to Hungarians. But there was a really nice Hungarian, I would assume he's Hungarian, that mentioned that he went to a lot of consulting, like multiple €1,000s of consulting. And he will, that's by the way why you see all the email addresses, because he mentioned like if anyone wants the address, the reply he gets tomorrow, because he's going for a consulting tomorrow as well, he'll send it. The only thing I would add here is if you're really worried about this, then I think the best answer you will get, because if, and again, I did not hear, see, know about any of this, but if the Hungarian government or the tax authorities would like to fine you, right, then you would need a lawyer. So what we actually did, and this is kind of where I get my knowledge from, I actually went to a Hungarian tax lawyer, right? And I asked him like, okay, this is my scenario. Let's say the authorities come after me. Did I do something wrong? Is it defendable? What's up? And so far, he has been able to give me the most kind of accurate answer. And that's why I say, by the way, that none of these things are black and white, because if you do get to that point, which again, I don't know anyone that got to that point, but if you would, or you're afraid that you would get to that point, then at some point you will need to go through the same questions again. So you might as well do it preemptively. And that's why I'm very certain that it's totally fine as long as you're not doing anything to purposefully avoid paying taxes that you should be paying. And so for me, that's totally fine. Obviously, there's always, wiggle room in there, but for me, that was kind of good. And I would add it here as well. If anyone is really worried, then they should maybe outside of tax and any sort of other consultant, they should go to a proper lawyer to ask this. Like, okay, let's say that I get sued from the government over this. Is it defendable? And so far, everyone told me that, yes, it's all fine. You didn't do anything wrong. And the worst case scenario is you need to pay VATs in Hungary, which you would do normally anyway if you cross the threshold. So that's kind of the only thing I would add on here.
Yeah, good. So next question was about reinvesting that I wanted to answer. So what does reinvesting mean? Basically, if you retain your profits, this is the same in the context of corporate income tax. So it is not operational costs only or property of the company. Also, everything that is retained in the company, you haven't distributed, that is reinvested or retained profits, and that is 0% corporate income tax. There are quite a lot of questions. We are not even halfway through. Unfortunately, we can't take everything. We have a maximum of 10 minutes left. So are there any questions that anyone, Henrik, Tõnis, Kenneth or Kristi, that you have noticed that you would really like to discuss?
I saw a couple of questions that about the, I guess not all the listeners are from Hungary, but or maybe they're not living in Hungary or have some kind of other residency. But yeah, you can get e-residency basically anywhere. There are some restrictions if you are suspicious, your ideas with the e-residency are suspicious. But maybe Jan, you can just elaborate like who can get the e-residency and what are the like showstoppers or what are the most common reasons why we don't issue it in Estonia?
Basically, it is not a very common thing for e-residency applications to be denied. So if there is no criminal background, for example, then you will probably get it. And you have to state your reasons why you, what you want to do with your e-residency. But basically, it is not a very common thing to be denied. So maybe about 2% of the applications are denied. 98% are approved. And of course, it is very uncommon to take it back from you. So within the 5 years that your e-residency card is valid, of course, things might change and it can be taken away because it is a privilege, it is not a right, but usually it is granted. And also, we don't really discriminate in terms of country of origin. Yeah. So, but you have to explain what is your reason for having e-residency. I think Eva Johnson is asking about the share capital, and whereas she was also asking it in the chat, and this. It's a good question. Maybe we can address this. So if you don't use it, can you get it back once you close your business in Estonia? And what is the share capital for? I think that one office, you can answer about share capital.
The share capital is basically your personal contribution into the company. It should come from savings or your daytime work salary or something like that. So you cannot, that's why you cannot get the profits, the dividends out of the company before you have paid in the personal like contribution, share capital, in other words. And once you paid it in, you can actually immediately withdraw it, use it for the company, use it for the business. So you don't have to have this 2,500 euros on the bank account all the time. It's basically a precondition to get the dividends. So that's why it's used, and that's why a lot of companies don't pay it in for many years, and they eventually pay it in once the company really is profitable and it makes sense to pay it in.
Great answer. What we have here are quite a lot of questions still. Ziad was also asking a question in chat, which was also entered here in the Q&A, but whereas it was about the citizenship, I think we already discussed that first you must have a ground for applying for residence permit, and then after a certain amount of years pass, you can apply for citizenship. So the conditions are on the Police and Border Guard website. If you write this question to our support, then I'm sure we can give you the correct links to that. And there is a question about cryptocurrency wallet. I don't know if, I think, Tõnis, you seem to be quite knowledgeable about this.
It's difficult. So again, some people do crypto trading. Some offer wallet services. I know that most of them need like addition. Again, this is completely maybe like Hungarian government on taxes. Estonia is in this part. I mean, the service providers are a little bit confused because we need to look into this field, what you're doing. We actually have expertise to offer this service. So it's 500 euros for a consultation to see if your company needs a license. When it does need a license, then there's a requirement to have share capital at least 12,000 euros. And with cryptocurrency business, usually you have to keep those funds always on the company's bank account. So you're almost like a banking institution already, depending what kind of crypto service are you providing. So this is really complicated. At first, I know that e-residency was quite popular among crypto service providers. But at some point, the government in Estonia changed some laws. And now you have these harsher rules that you have to speak amount of share capital. You have to have a license, even if your clients are outside of Estonia. So it's more complicated. And most service providers don't even look into your business. They either say that, hey, you want to open the company, the rest is up to you. But we in one office, usually we either offer this consultation or we don't open a company because we know what's going to be involved later. There are going to be a lot of complaints. So with crypto, I actually recommend getting like a real professional law firm from Estonia. This is the best course of action. It can be expensive, but if your company again is profitable, then go ahead and do that. And you can get referrals from one office if needed.
And there are quite a lot of these who are concentrated, focused on the crypto business. And also a question with regard to licenses. Is the jurisdiction suitable for legal tech businesses and for digital law firms? I think this is a really good way to make use of the Estonian jurisdiction. Are there any legal license required? And maybe Tõnis knows about the licenses.
With licenses, you apply the logic that if your business needs a license, then it needs a license in the country where your clients are located. That's the most common one. Now, usually we look into the licenses when you provide some kind of financial service. You take clients' money, you invest it or do something else, some kind of banking institution, whatever you're setting up. But basically, you're using money to generate more wealth through investments or some other means. And that's why this crypto part is also now licensed. But then first question is, where are your clients? And the second question is, do you need the license only in the country where the customers are located, or you also need it in Estonia? If it's a financial thing, then you also need in Estonia and most likely in your client destination country. But there are other activities. For example, if you're selling food, if you sell food or you have a restaurant, then you need probably some kind of certification. Again, in the country where you offer this, your food products or your services. So again, but we do have a lot of e-residents who want to open restaurants in Estonia, and some of them have done so. So in Estonian side, we can help. We can actually, Estonian like government officials, they help you to apply for the license. You contact them, you say that this is what you're doing, and then they can help you to apply for the license also. So if you're doing the business here in Estonia, then you're quite covered. But if you're doing, again, the business in somewhere else, I don't know, Germany, Netherlands, then you have to, again, contact somebody there because those rules apply to you in that case.
So there is one question that we already answered a couple of times, but it is rephrased. So do I understand it correctly? If I leave the profit in the company, I do not need to pay the Estonian corporate income tax. Same applies if I reinvest the profit in Estonia, right? Yes. If you leave the profit in the company or if you reinvest the profit, then the Estonian corporate income tax in that case is 0%. So indeed, and this is one of the best things about the Estonian tax system. But now we have only a couple of,
I just noticed one question, and I think it will be relevant for some of the listeners. Mostly we talk about like one-person companies or like companies which are owned by private persons. So you are an e-resident and your partner is an e-resident. You want to open a company, the two of you. You have both 50-50 or whatever you decide. But there are cases where you already have maybe a company in Switzerland or somewhere else, and you want to get a subsidiary here in Estonia. Then yes, e-residency can also be useful for the management. Jan, I think went over this, but the setup is a little bit different process. So what we usually do is we open the company for one private person who has e-residency card, and then we later transfer the shares to the original company in Switzerland or maybe in Hungary. So whoever will be the final owner, we will transfer the shares to that company. So it's possible, different structures are possible. Sky is the limit, use your imagination and just ask the questions, and you can usually get the answers from Estonia if it's about Estonia.
Yeah. So, but now we are basically out of time. Hendrik, do you have any questions, any favorites from this Q&A that you would still like to address? Maybe one question.
Yeah, so there were a couple regarded to me. I think most of the tax ones we already answered. So any personal tax, whatever, you're obviously, if you're the sole entrepreneur, you're better off taking dividends, paying the Hungarian personal income tax on dividends. It's actually pretty cheap. And then paying the corporate tax in Estonia because you took out dividends. Super simple. You don't need to pay 10 different taxes, etc. So there were a couple there. I think a really good one is, Henrik, would you recommend the residency for sole entrepreneurs, egyéni vállalkozó in Hungarian, for persons working in IT consulting, issuing 2-3 invoices per month, outside of the tax part, which you just need to calculate how much you would pay each way. But generally speaking, yes, very much so. That's especially if you're working with international clients. There were a little bit of discussion here as well. If you work in tech, having a Hungarian company kind of is not really something that's very reputable necessarily. A lot of people have presumptions about Hungary. So having an Estonian company, especially if you work in tech, can be very good. And another thing, which I kind of talked about on the tax part, I really never had any problems with Estonia when it came to understanding my business. In Hungary, sometimes it's very difficult to talk to the accountants about why I purchased something or how does that help my business, because they don't really, it's not super modern. And so if they're not caught up, it's very difficult to explain how, I don't know, like a set of microphones, right, would actually account for, that I have at home, would account for business expenses. And I use this for a podcast, it's content marketing, etc. But that would be very difficult to explain to Hungarian accountants sometimes, and never had that problem in Estonia. So for those reasons, I would very much recommend you. Obviously look into all the other aspects that we talked about, but I would. And there were two other here real quick. Let me
take them, sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's one more very specific tax stuff regarding Kata. How do you grow as an agency? I think that's a more important one. Scaling up the agency, need to, lower. So tax stuff we already talked a lot about. How do you grow as an agency? So mainly working with freelancers. How do you provide service to companies? I mainly sell to Hungary, wish to expand in the future. I'm super happy to answer that. Just DM me on Instagram or something, because this is not really related to Estonia. I don't want to take the time. But it's the same stuff, you just do it more, right? Like lead generation, provide a really good service, then do lead generation, then do better sales, make sure your customers are happy, and they'll come back. Do you pay taxes primarily in Estonia or Hungary? Both, right? Corporate in Estonia, Hungary, personal. Which services do you use? I think there was a question here, by the way, that I answered in chat as well, whether QuickBooks and what was the other one? Stripe are good for accounting. And yes, we use both and never had any problems. So that's actually, again, a very good thing. We use QuickBooks for accounting. Okay, and then there were, so do I live in Hungary and Estonia? I live in Hungary. And explain your revenue flow setup. I guess most of your expenses are subcontractors, yes. How do you take profits? I take dividends. Do you have local Hungarian company too? No, we don't need to. I don't really do a lot of business in Hungary other than our, how do you call the education brands? But for now, we don't have a need for a Hungarian company. If we do, because it grows so big, again, that's something we need to discuss with the government and the lawyers, then we might need to open up, but for now we're good. What is the overall cost on your income? I think the 15% on the dividend tax is the Hungarian personal income tax, right? And there is some other on top. I honestly have zero idea. And then you pay 20% in Estonia, which is the flat rate. And then I guess the VAT, if it applies, then you would need to. In what ways is the admin burden lower? So I think we talked a lot about that, but basically every single imaginable way ever. Like in a Hungarian company, it is it's just a nightmare to do all the VAT reductions. that the accountants can, again, because it's not set in stone. I had many friends of mine, like after 3 years, they realized like, oh, well, we could have actually gotten back another 10,000 in VAT. I'm like, how, isn't that the job that you pay your accountant for? It's like, well, yes, but also, and so I never had any of that sort of problem come up. And anytime we had anything related to VAT payments, I think we got it in like 5 days or something in Estonia, which is very fast. In Hungary, you're lucky if they paid out. Well, they technically paid out, right? But they like to delay it a lot, which again is for the cash flow setup. It kind of matters, especially that we have a lot of outgoing VAT because we advertise a lot. And that's actually with an Estonian partner. And I think that was kind of the bulk of it. I think maybe one more thing that a lot of the Hungarians asked here is kind of where, and maybe this could be the last question, sorry if it takes a lot of time, but to one office is basically there are 3 scenarios that I've seen in the Hungarian chat. So one would be the solo entrepreneur, sole proprietor kind of role. Would it make sense for them? The other one is I've got some subcontractors, maybe employees, maybe in Hungary, maybe around the world, but it's a smaller company, right? And then the other one would be kind of a global startup, but I think we covered that, like the funding and everything else. But especially whether going from a sole proprietorship to a proper company would make sense through that. I think that's regarding the employee stuff, if you have time to talk about it. If not, then it's on the website, by the way, very clearly. So.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Henrik, for taking the questions. So basically, we are out of time, and I really liked one answer that you gave. So, in what way was the administrative burden lessened for you? So you answered, I think, that in every single way. So this is actually the, I think, perfect note, at least for us, to end this webinar on. So, of course, we still have Tõnis and Kenneth. So, Kenneth, I think that Madam Ambassador has already another meeting, but you're very welcome to say any final remarks from the embassy.
Yes, thank you very much for everyone who stayed until the end. We almost had 200 people, I think, at the beginning, and right now we have 100. So it's quite a good result, I think. Yeah, as you said, Jan, Madam Ambassador had to leave for another meeting, but on behalf of the embassy, I would really like to thank everybody who participated, from the e-residency team, Jan, from one office, Tõnis, and of course, Henrik, for your really good Hungarian-related answers. And to all the participants, I would also like to just encourage you to email us or call us or whatever you need to do to get more information about e-residency. And of course, to whoever is thinking about applying, then of course, as an Estonian diplomat, I would say go for it. But I hope today's seminar was a good information for you to decide to do it, actually. So thank you for everyone.
Thank you for the great words, Kenneth. So, Tõnis?
Yes, also I want to thank everybody participating, really good turnout. And then the main thing to take away here is that if you have questions, you have like 4 people right now to contact, and there is plenty of more help actually out there. So go through e-residency website, check One Office website, my One Office, contact us at sales@oneoffice.co, email Kenneth, call us. So basically we can look into each case separately, and that's always the best way to proceed, get this personal touch going, and then you can make your decision. Nobody's pressuring you. You can already apply for the e-residency card. It's not like a yearly fee or something. You have it and you have it, you can use it, you don't use it. So just look around, do your research, ask questions.
Great, thank you, Tõnis, for your participation. Henrik, anything you want to say?
Nothing special. I think, thank you so much for inviting me, first of all. That's obviously always such an honor to be here. I just want to reflect on the whole chat thing. I think, especially the Hungarian parts, because the English you can read, but most of the response, especially now they're writing it in English as well, which is very nice of them. A lot of people mentioned how they're kind of mind blown about how simple and forward thinking this whole system is. Obviously, no perfect situation can exist. You still need to pay taxes, right? But that's ultimately not a bad thing either. You just don't want to pay too much, or you don't want to pay for stuff that you don't use, which again is very good in Estonia because you actually pay if you make money. Like, it just makes a lot more sense. And I think that's a kind of a good summarization of everything, of my every reason that I have why I'm incorporated in Estonia, why I like this system so much, because just like most of the Hungarians said, it just makes sense way Estonia does it, which sounds kind of weird, but if you're coming from a Hungarian background, then all of these things, that was kind of my first, my first impression is, oh, it can be this simple. Well, that's nice to know. You know, it's very nice to know that you can actually do it simple, because especially as an online entrepreneur, you're organizing your business to be simple from the outside. You want your clients to have a good experience. You want everything to flow smoothly. So then it kind of makes sense that all your frameworks or your paperworks and the taxes, everything also works smoothly. And that for me is a fresh breath of air. And as far as I saw in the chat, a lot of people mentioned that as well. So I wanted to congratulate again. Hope to be back. And again, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you, Henrik. And I'm also mind blown that you have so much experience in doing business through your Estonian company, and you haven't set foot into Estonia, not even once. But this is the way to do business nowadays in the world that is that's online, that everybody's at home, everybody's wherever you choose to be. Thank you, everyone. So basically, I think that this webinar was made really great and special by not only all of the speakers, but all of the participants who contributed these great questions. So unfortunately, we couldn't go through all of them. There were 65 questions in the Q&A and lots of them also in the chat, but hopefully we answered them mostly. And if they weren't answered yet, then please join the next webinars. The next webinars will be monthly webinars, part 1 and part 2. You can find the information on the events calendar, and you can get all of the rest of all the information already during the month of February. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating, and thank you for speaking at the webinar. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.